All right,
who
let's
just saw
listen to
Democrats
fucking
flip
Pat
his seat.
Toomey.
That was the seat at stake that John Fetterman will now occupy. Senator Toomey, thank you so much for being with me. So, you know, as you watched this from a perspective of one, only you really could see this the way you did, right? It was your former seat. You know your state so well. Why do you think Oz lost?
Well, it's actually still my seat for another couple of months, but
Yeah.
I get the point.
Oh my Lord.
Look, first of all, let me be very clear. I think Dr. Oz ran a very good campaign. I actually think he was a very good candidate in a lot of ways. So the question that I think arises is, why did a good candidate running a good...
I'm not. No. Stop saying copium. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. I don't think Dr. Oz was a bad candidate. I'll say it. Okay. Well, maybe the crudité and the fact that he's from New Jersey, sure. But like, I don't think Dr. Oz was the worst fucking candidate to run. Out of all of the Trump pick candidates in the entire country, Dr. Oz was one of the better ones. Okay. The issue is he ran against Fetterman, who is a significantly better candidate for Pennsylvania. That's it. He wasn't, his bona fides weren't the worst. His candidacy wasn't like he just ran a bad campaign. I'll say that. Turkish bias? No, dude, I hate Dr. Oz. I hate Dr. Oz. But John Fetterman was way too good. And if he hadn't had that stroke like right before the fucking primaries, he would have rolled him. He would have rolled him aggressively. The reality is that Dr. Oz was a good candidate who ran a really bad campaign. He was a good candidate who ran a very bad campaign. He was a good candidate overall for the National Republican Party as well. TV guy, has like a lot of, he's very popular overall, knows how to speak. And he was significantly more moderate than Doug Mastriano was. Like he was running on like a, let's get everybody together. Like I'm the problem fixer type of guy, right? The issue was, the issue is that he was one alongside Doug Mastriano, who is a fucking psycho, like a sick freak, a real pervert, and also running against John Fetterman, who is, loved by Pennsylvanians.
Good race in what should be a very good environment not prevail in a state like Pennsylvania.
You said Oz would have won GA by 5%? Yes. If you put Dr. Oz instead of Herschel Walker, that seat, oh my fucking Lord. Dr. Oz would have fucking outperformed Brian Kemp in Georgia. Okay? All the fucking like Georgian moderates, like all the Georgian moderate voters that are like desperate looking for a Brian Kemp style fucking candidate, they would have moved towards him. Walker is a good guy. No, he's not. He is like demonstrably a bad guy. What the fuck? Why do you think Herschel Walker is a good guy? He's done so many bad things. I'm not even talking about the fact that he's like running as a Republican, which means that like he's going to do a lot of bad shit if he were to be elected, but he's like literally a bad guy in his private life as well.
Which is very, very competitive, always close, or almost always close. And I think a big part of the reason was that at the top of the ticket in the gubernatorial race, we had an ultra MAGA candidate who never appeared to even attempt to expand beyond a hardcore base that was very, very committed to him. But he ended up losing in an epic beatdown.
Yeah, epic.
And it's very, very hard for candidates who are down ballot.
Someone said, if I were Pat Toomey, I would go bald because what the fuck is this? That's fucked up, dude. Chill. You didn't have to do that to him, bro. His hairline is already gone.
And Dr. Oz, so our gubernatorial Republican lost by like 14 points. Dr. Oz kept his race to within 3. It's really hard when that's what's happening. By the way, we had 3 House seats that I thought we had a very good chance of picking up in Pennsylvania. We lost all 3 of those. And again, I think it was a combination of a real problem at the top of the ticket, but also President Trump inserting himself into the race. He came to Pennsylvania, late. I think it was the Saturday before the election.
He rallied with Oz multiple times.
It was never going to be helpful.
Yeah.
He was, I mean, Mastriano was his big interest, but still, the point is, we were in a moment, we were in a cycle, we were at a time when it's good for Republicans for the race to be about President Biden, who is not popular, whose policies have failed, and instead, President Trump had to insert himself, and that changed the nature of the race, and that created just too much of an obstacle. And by the way, it's not just Pennsylvania. You look all over the country,
Yes.
there's a very high correlation between MAGA candidates and big losses, or at least dramatically underperforming.
I mean, it is amazing, though, Senator. You look at
That's
this.
the truth.
You're going through 3 House races, a gubernatorial race, and a Senate seat. 5 crucial races that can be put on the doorstep from your analysis of former President Trump. I mean, that's a pretty terrible record just in your state.
You need to add to that control of the General Assembly in our state capital of Harrisburg. We're probably going to lose control of the State House, which Republicans have had for some time. So this is a huge problem, and I think my party needs to face the fact that if fealty to Donald Trump is the primary criteria for selecting candidates, we're probably not going to do really well.
So is this going to break the Trump fever? I mean, I say it, and I guess incredulously a bit, but I mean, we keep hearing, oh, this will be it, this will be it. Here we are, losses after losses after losses handed to your party. Will that be enough?
So here's my theory on the case, is that there is not going to be one discrete moment at which the fever breaks and Donald Trump becomes irrelevant. That's not likely to happen. What I think is his influence wanes, and a debacle like we had across the country Tuesday night from a Republican point of view accelerates the pace at which that influence wanes. There are some interesting data points already. A year or two ago, if you asked Republican voters, do they consider themselves more traditional Republicans or Donald Trump Republicans, he had a huge lead. That has flipped. And that's telling, I think, and I think that's going to continue.
Well, Senator, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, that's actually really scary for your party, but kind of hard for you to comprehend, especially considering that the majority of the party is still very much MAGA, or at the very least, like the Trump culture war shit, which is, going to really hurt you. That's why your party's imploding. Trump is not, as a singular individual, the only reason why Donald Trump is so popular is because he was able to accelerate all the Republican Party's politics, all the culture war issues, and basically become the vector for all of that anger and frustration. Okay? And he did it in a very charismatic way for all these fucking hogs. Which, by the way, this is a really sad state of affairs. Trump is no longer buff in the Ben Garrison cartoons. DeSantis is now the sexy one. That is probably the final the final moment for me. I think that there are a lot of fakes in the Republican base. There are a lot of fakes in the Republican National Party. I did not think that Ben Garrison, one of the greatest satirists, one of the greatest cartoonists of our time, would be one of them. Also, very weirdly, he made John Fetterman look hot. I don't know what's going on there. Just going to let that go. He literally just made him look good. I don't know. He still gave him the tumor, but you can't really see it. Too big to steal, of course, were suspicious. Popularity stolen from Trump. DeSantis steals Trump's thunder. Biden, is that all? Not the wave we expected. Biden takes credit. Also, I have never seen someone who is supposed to, you know how they say a picture is worth 1,000 words? Like, Ben Garrison didn't understand that. He thinks like every picture is supposed to have 1,000 words. If you were good at your job, you wouldn't have to caption everything. What is happening here? Maybe he just understands. Maybe he just understands how fucking stupid his audience is. Ben Garrison explains jokes more than I do, okay? Like, at least my audience is leftist, joy-killing, neurodivergent woke scolds who can never laugh and think laughter is bourgeois decadence. So that's why I constantly fucking have to find myself describing the concept of jokes, humor, laughter, things like that, okay? Ben Garrison, on the other hand, I thought the Republican Party was the funny one, right? Like, I thought these guys were the ones that loved, like, making comedy legal. What the fuck happened? Leftists don't like jokes. Conservatives don't even understand jokes. That's the truest thing you've ever said, Megaphonics. Actually a good take. That's crazy. Megaphonics with a good take, a true take that is good. What is happening?
And you're taking, the time to share your thoughts and the nuance with us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Senator Toomey, as he said, is still senator here, of course, until the new year. Everyone's back with me now. So interesting.
Yeah.
And not afraid. Look, he's always been a moderate. He's not afraid to make his point here. But he's talking about if this doesn't break the fealty, what will?
I only wanted you to explain that diamond cutter joke yesterday because I legit didn't understand it, and you called me a baby brain leftist who hates humor. Yeah, it's pretty obvious what that joke was, man.
I think he's being too cautious about that. Look,
But I'm sorry. Okay, I feel bad. My point stands, though, about the whole, leftists are all neurodivergent, joy-killing woke scolds is pretty true. It rings true. I do fear. I'm sorry. Maybe you weren't a joy killer, though.
look, I mean, Pat Toomey, I wouldn't call him moderate. He ran Club for Growth. But he is in the era of Trump. He has stood up to Trump in a principled, moderate way and worked with Joe Manchin on issues. And, been a responsible conservative senator from the Keystone State.
Yes.
Look, I think he called out Trumpism for what it is. It's the toxic mold of American politics when it comes to moderates. And we saw that again last night. But while Toomey deserves a great deal of credit for calling out Trump consistently and saying this guy is a loser for our party, he is a drag on the ticket, there's the underlying assumption that, this fever is going to break slowly, that everything's basically fine, that Trump's an aberration. There's not a lot of evidence for that right now. I think instead there is a moment where Trump is wounded because people recognize how dangerous he is, or divisive he is, and how bad he is for close elections, even in a midterm. But now Republicans have to step up and start filling that void, including and especially folks who want to run for president, because otherwise it will revert to the mean. We've seen this movie before.
Right.
2 weeks after January 6th, Kevin McCarthy went to kiss the ring.
From the grab 'em tape all the way on.
Yeah, why are they acting like they weren't alongside Trump the whole way? They're so fucking fake, dude. If I was Trump, I'd be so sad. You know what I mean? I fucking ran for president, most successful president in most people's lifetimes, most successful Republican president, okay? There's still a sea of adoring fans, and now everyone is like singularly shitting on you. Everyone is singularly shitting on you and calling you out for what? Doing literally what Republicans wanted you to do in the correct way and too successfully. You're such a Trump simp amount. No, you're misunderstanding my point. Trump being successful is not a good thing for the country, okay? Demonstrably so. I mean, look at what's going on with the abortion rights. Like, it's clearly a bad thing. But Trump being successful is not unique to Trump. Trump is literally just taking what Republicans wanted to do and giving it to them. And now you got a bunch of Republicans going, we didn't want that. What the fuck? You're bad. Like, what do you mean? Republicans as a party are victim to their own success. Okay? That's the issue. They're going to start calling Trump Paul Pelosi's gay lover next? Yeah, dude. Literally, it's the same. That's actually a great analogy. It's like Paul DePepe, right? Paul DePepe is like, oh man, I'm so groped up. Like, oh, Democratic Party are a bunch of, pedophiles. Like, I'm gonna go kill one. And everyone else is like, yeah, do it. Fuck yeah, you're right, King. And then he goes out and tries to kill Nancy Pelosi, and everyone's like, oh, dude, that's a gay loser. That's not us. The fuck? What do you mean? You're saying the same shit he's saying still on the internet.
I mean, Joan, it's amazing, though, and to me, I like how he, elaborated on what I was saying, right? He's 3 House seats, governor's seat, senator's seat, and he was clear to point out the State House in Harrisburg.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just like being punched 50 times.
Right.
They lost everything.
No, so the argument you always hear from the MAGA people is, it reminds me of like the salesman who says, sure, we lose money on every sale, but we'll make it up in volume. Right? They seem to think that the MAGA candidates, because their passion, their support for them is so intense, it will outweigh the numerical superiority of the people who don't like it. And we saw this in this election. Look, I mean, Joe Biden has every right to celebrate, what happened on election night, but his approval rating, was not good. This was an anti-Trump party coalition more than it was a pro-Biden coalition, at least at the margins. And there were other things going on as well. And so I don't know if it's likely that this spells the end of Trump, but I do know that it hasn't been this possible for a very long time. And it's going to require institutional actors to step up and figure out how to do this. A lot of it depends on how DeSantis handles things. A lot of it depends if Trump announces on the 15th and it looks like it's going to hurt the Georgia runoff, if it's going to hurt Herschel Walker, that could be the kind of thing that erodes even more support for this entire approach to politics.
And instead, I mean, it looks like that is going ahead, this 15th announcement.
Yeah, it does look like it's going ahead, and I do think it will be interesting to see what the response is to that. We know that before Election Day happened, Donald Trump was basically looking.
He's cool.
At all of the Republican the Republican leaders to see if they were going to pre-endorse him for 2024. They thought that this was going to be a coronation after a Republican wave driven by Donald Trump that would lead him directly to the nomination. I think we are already seeing that that's not going to happen. Even if he does announce on the 15th, there is a lot of other Republican candidates that see this as their window. The problem is if the base, if the voter is with them, because Donald Trump did not make these people, make his voters believe, and he wasn't dictating beliefs. They actually reflected a lot of those beliefs. I think outside of...
There you go. I told you. Yeah, Estet is dope. He's actually surprising that he's on this panel because CNN is like permanently wrong. But that's why, he's cool. He's saying the correct
denialism.
thing.
So
there is a truth. Yeah, you can't sell somebody something they don't want to buy.
Absolutely. Right? So will those new candidates that come up out of this, will they reflect those same grievances that Donald Trump has, or will they try to pivot in a different, more moderate type of way? Well, that's still open to question.
And he'll be making that announcement in Mar-a-Lago in Florida.
Yeah.
The lone site of the great Republican victory, such that there was one in this cycle, which was Ron DeSantis' reelection.
Yeah, I'm not one for giving Republicans political advice, but I will say, I think that if Donald Trump announces, to John's point, and there are other candidates that step up, the more that step up, the better Donald Trump's chances are, because you say 30% of the Republican Party, I still think are MAGA Republicans, extreme MAGA Republicans. I mean, they still did vote for some of these candidates, and some of them still did win and could still win.
Yes.
So you have that part of the base. And then if you get a Kemp, a Youngkin, an Abbott, a DeSantis, 70% of your party might split 4 ways, and then does Trump prevail?
You just set up a debate stage right there.
I did.
All right.
House Minority Leader.
Oh my God. This is so dumb, dude. The GOP is just getting started on investigations, dude. I don't know if I want to fucking.
The
Let's move on from that. I don't even want to hear Jesse Waters talk about all the investigations. Like I said, they were gonna do like, oh man, a million times over. You know, there's a lot of good stuff in here, and I will be playing It Takes Two with Carl Jacobs at 4 p.m. So I'm trying to get through some of these stories quickly.
governor's race in Pennsylvania between GOP candidate Doug Mastriano and his rival Josh Shapiro was projected to be a long, drawn-out affair. But nope. Just a few hours after the polls closed, the race was already called.
We've got a winner.
40 minutes late, lol. Okay, well, here's what actually happened. Carl told me 6 p.m. I thought, 6 p.m. Pacific. No, just kidding. Carl meant 6 p.m. Eastern. So now I am going to do it at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Pacific. Okay, that's what we're going to do.
In Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro.
Josh Shapiro
was going to be the next governor here of Pennsylvania.
Shapiro's victory was a runaway. That's a big win for Democrats and a bigger one for democracy, since it seems like too big of a margin for someone to claim there was any fraud. But then again, we've been covering Mastriano's campaign, and denying elections is his whole bag. Doubt about this election has already infected many of the supporters that I've talked to.
I worry about our election system. I worry that things will be stolen.
Well, I feel like our system's been tortured, and we need to go to that more positive area where we can feel that freedom again, and we can feel that connection.
If Doug Mastriano were to lose, would you trust those results?
If he said there's nothing we could do, I think I would be okay to follow, but I wouldn't just like sit back and do nothing.
When Shapiro gave a rousing victory speech from the other side of the state,
real freedom prevailed here tonight in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Mastriano's immediate response was less of a concession and more like, let's put a pin in that.
And so we're going to wait patiently to see what the people of Pennsylvania said. And what the people of Pennsylvania say, we'll, of course, respect that.
It's a good sign that Mastriano didn't immediately...
By the way, here's what I've been saying, okay? Democrats pumping people like Mastriano is short-sighted. They win in the short term, but in the long term, you literally promoted a candidate that still ended up getting like almost 2 million fucking votes, at least 1.7, at least 1.8 million votes in the state of Pennsylvania, who is a huge omega freak, okay? A pervert in every regard. That, in and of itself, is devastating for the future of this country. Okay? You are normalizing and hyping up candidates that are going to literally be worse than before. You are creating a base of support for candidates that are, you're participating in the creation of a base of support for candidates like this.
Immediately challenge his own results, though he certainly left that door open. And far-right conspiracy theorists already have one foot out the door. The leaders of Women for Trump flat out said this election was, quote, stolen again. But making up a new big lie is only part of what's at stake here. This campaign has been filled with anti-abortion rhetoric, transphobia, and conspiracy theories from the get-go. We've seen some bizarre things.
3, 4, Douglas Mastriano, we the people have supported you. You've seen the movement grow. We're almost there.
At the heart of Mastriano's campaign was Christian nationalism, the belief that America should be a Christian nation at all costs.
My fear has been and will continue to be that there's two ways out of this. Either the Republican Party fucking implodes, okay, because they can't captivate the suburban voters, or more of the suburban voters go freak mode, okay? Or more of the suburban voters start going fucking freak mode. And we arrive at, when they go sicko mode, we arrive at like even more insane Republican candidates, because now they can actually captivate the large enough audience to win, like to eke out like, you know, small marginal electoral victories.
God has a plan. And we want to be part of that plan, right?
Like, yeah, Florida is a good example of this. Florida is already sicko mode. You don't want the rest of the country to look like Florida. it will be even more sicko mode everywhere.
All of us collectively. And so we call all of you, call on you to pray and to ask the Lord to intervene.
But it looks like that was too much for the rest of the state, which also swung blue in other ways.
Democratic Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman beat Dr. Mehmet Oz to flip that seat blue.
But Fetterman won by a much slimmer margin than Shapiro, seeming to show that even some Republicans were willing to vote across the party line, rejecting Mastriano's extremism. But Christian nationalism was on the ballot all across the country, and it wasn't as fiercely shut down elsewhere. Several extreme candidates have run and won on similar ideals. So as we look ahead to 2024, we'll be watching to see if Republicans keep betting on extreme candidates like Mastriano, and if the base is already too far gone.
It's okay, Florida's a siphon point for sickos. That palliative care state full of decaying lunatics from every other state. Yeah, but remember, the palliative care state, like those people weren't always sickos, right? So that fucking brain rot, yeah, sure, happens with time, especially when you have a lot of time in your hands and you're watching a lot of Fox News. But that's my fear, okay? My fear is you can turn the suburbs into fucking sickos too. Palliative care, whatever. You don't want that shit. You don't want, like, remember the fucking the husband and wife with the AR-15s during the George Floyd protest, like coming out with their AR-15s and like pointing it at black people, the McCloskeys. You don't want more McCloskeys, okay? You don't want more people that look like that to behave like that. Do you see what I'm saying?
I'm Michael Learmonth, editor-in-chief of Vice News.
Okay, we're skipping this. All right, let's look at John Fetterman. Like, I hate her, but at least she's consistent and honest. This guy just has brain damage. Like, how do you describe what that guy just said? You know what I mean? Like, he's like, nah, $15 is too low, brother. Also, I love Donald Trump. This is why I said the Republican Party is imploding. Dr. Oz is a perfect example of this. Dr. Oz is what you get when you run on Republican issues. And when you run on Republican issues, the crowd is snoozing. Why? Because they want the culture shit. That crowd that goes and watches rallies wants culture shit. The larger crowd wants less culture shit, more issues. But when you look at the issues, there's a reason why the Republican Party's been running on wedge issues for the past 30 years. Because Republican issues suck. Like, and that is where you arrive at the fucking internal contradiction within the fucking Republican Party's campaign strategy. No one, like, how are you going to fucking make a successful campaign being like, we need to stop government spending? This isn't 1997, man. You can't do that. The right-wing populism cat is out of the bag. You have opened the right-wing populism Pandora's box.